This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. I have a question for you. Can you imagine leading your life not knowing what's going to happen next, without having a true plan, going project to project, no particular time frame, not 9 to 5, no idea what the next great opportunity will be, but eyes wide open all the time? Can you imagine that? I can easily imagine that. It's my life. That's how I approach everything. Now, you can immediately say, Mike, you're trying to tell me your way is the best way or whatever. Not my point. I'm just sharing today. I'm just giving a perspective, a way to think that's very, 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 how about a little cursing? Very fucking different. By the way, on this cursing, I'm sorry, I can't help myself. As a former baseball catcher, I used to sit back there behind the plate and I would talk so much shit. Guy would be up there to bat and I would just be talking stuff about his mom, his dad, whatever. I'd be talking about him. I'd be cursing. All the stuff that you can't see when you watch a baseball game, that's what I would do as a baseball catcher, to get into the mind of the batter, to mess them up. Yes, all is fair in love and war, and that's just a little inside baseball, so to speak. So please excuse me for my cursing if you have certain religious tendencies that cause your mind to explode if you hear a somewhat intelligent guy. Yes, I'm being a little bit cocky on the intelligent part, but then again, I know a lot of people that are a hell of a lot smarter than myself. They all come on this podcast, by the way. But please excuse me if you do have a cursing thing. You just don't want to hear it. You don't want to let your kids listen to this podcast. Okay, I get it. I'm sorry. But hey, that's the cost of doing business. That's the cost of how I roll. That's the way that it happens. But can you imagine not having that plan? This is kind of the Bayesian mindset. Remember a guest I had on my podcast, Allison Gopnik, a psychologist from Berkeley, talking about Bayesian babies? Go find that episode if you've not yet heard it. The Bayesian mindset, unlike the adult mindset, the Bayesian baby mindset is just to start experimenting, find out what's useful, what's good, go down a path. If that path rewards you, keep going down that path. Don't stop. Just keep rolling with it. Don't try to have a plan about something better. Just go with what is rewarding you. Kind of sounds like trend following? Well, it is kind of trend following. Trend following for life. I have a current story to share with you about this unexpected, about going down a path, not having a plan. But I want to take it back in time a little bit to when my career started, because I was definitely the guy that had a general idea of where he might want to go, but he had no idea how to get there. And I met a lot of people early on who helped me. But they didn't necessarily help me out of the goodness of their heart. They helped me because I was open. They helped me because I persisted. They helped me because I was standing in front of them, wide-eyed and ready to go. One of those people back in the early to mid-90s who helped me a great deal with an understanding of how things worked was a trader named Peter Borish. Peter got his start alongside Paul Tudor Jones. They are featured in the famous documentary that you might be able to find on the internet somewhere called Trader. I'm not so sure either of them really want it out there anymore, but it's still a great insight into what was going on back in the 1986, 87, 88 time period leading up to the 87 crash. A fantastic insight into how they both launched their careers. Now, of course, for anyone who listens to this podcast, they know, that Peter has appeared multiple times in this podcast. He is a great guest. He's a very, very, very bright and experienced man. But when I first met him, it was randomly at a conference, a trading conference, kind of like a hedge fund conference. Maybe it was in Washington, D.C., I'm not sure. But then within a month, I saw him at a second event. Maybe this was in New York City, I can't recall. But he met me at that first event in Washington. Then he saw me at the next event in a different city. Months later, I'm a nobody, but he recognized me. He may have even said something to me at the second city, I can't recall. But it was the third city that was interesting. And the third city I do recall, that was London. Peter was giving a presentation, a small group presentation. We were in something that I recall felt like a basement conference room. And he was just sitting there with his yo-yo, at the time known for having a yo-yo. And I walked in, I think it was the first person to the event, walked in, sat down. Of course, he's sitting behind a desk, looks up, sees me, and gives me that look of like, why are you here? Are you stalking me? Mind you, this is going on for 3 cities, spread out over, let's say, 4 months. And I gave him some rather direct response. And I was like, hey, Peter, you know how it works. You just got to go to where the people are that you want to meet. You have to go to where the people are you want to see. And I'm going to paraphrase a little because I don't recall the exact words, but he kind of put his head down, he put his head up, and he said, hey, there's an interview for you at such and such office in New York City on this date. Be there. That was my introduction to having a relationship, a friendship with Peter Borish. How much of a plan do you see there? There really wasn't a plan. I met him in one city, got a little feedback at the second city, and got myself in front of him at the third city. I was not intimidated that he was a mover and shaker on Wall Street. I just knew that I wanted to be in front of him. I wanted to be in front of that man at that time to learn, to connect, to grow, to figure something out. I just wanted to be there. Serendipity. Random. Frankly, beautiful. I love those kinds of situations. A connection coming from absolutely nowhere. Now let me fast forward to 2019. Well, before I get to 2019, let me drop you off at a speech that I gave in, I think, May of 2018 in Hong Kong. Small group event, maybe 50 people in the room. After, the first person that came up to me was a gentleman, very spry, but my guess at the time was probably early to mid 70s. And he was very complimentary to my presentation, said he really enjoyed it, wanted to know what I was doing in Asia. We connected. We tried to get together in another city. It didn't work. We both just got delayed. But I felt his energy at that moment where he approached me. This guy in his mid-70s who was just giving off passion. Now, I had just given a speech filled with passion. So I had energized him. He came up to me, energized me. Boom, connection. And I just knew at that moment in time, this man and myself, we were going to figure out a project together. I did not know what at the time, but I just had that feeling. Serendipity again. Now, was any of this planned? No. I was randomly asked to come speak in Hong Kong. Someone said, hey, come on up. We're going to put you up at the, I think it was the Mandarin Oriental maybe, in Hong Kong. Come on up. We'll give you an audience. We'll film it. No plan. Someone randomly asked me. I went. Then I randomly met this guy in the audience. Then we both forgot about each other. Now roll forward to 2019. Here I am minding my business earlier in the week, having breakfast at a hotel breakfast buffet, sitting there in shorts and a t-shirt, unshaven, hair unkempt, Not looking that good, frankly. Not because I'm trying to put off a bad image. It's just one of those things. You know how it goes, right? I'm finishing breakfast, minding my own business. I look up. About 4 meters away, a gentleman in his mid-70s looks up at the exact same time. We make eye contact. And from 4 meters away, I instantly said, I know you. Now, I haven't seen him for, 7 months, something like that. And I wasn't sure exactly in the first split second where I could place him in my mind, but I knew once I got to the second who he was. We both stood up, shook hands, connected, and a couple days later had a breakfast. Now, the interesting thing about him, emerging markets fund manager, 40 years in the business, covering Asia, a really interesting guy with vast experience. Now, connect those dots for me for a second. That's not the kind of experience you have in an office cube. That's not the kind of experience you have doing the same old shit day after day after day. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to tell you I'm all that. I'm trying to paint a picture that if you are willing and able to have your eyes wide open and not be saddled with standard issue life, if you're willing to not be saddled with that, guess what? Stuff happens. Paths happen. Connections happen. Crazy ones happen. And it's not that abnormal, really, if you think about it. Because the people that move and shake this world, they're not sitting in the office cube. That's not what they do. They have figured out a way, and I like to think of myself as one of these people, they have figured out a way to have freedom, to have time, to be in that place, to be in that different place where different people might gravitate. And so while I think it's terribly crazy, random, pure serendipity for me to bump into this guy again, because I had forgotten about our experience 7 months before. Maybe I would have recalled it eventually, but time goes on. That's magic when that happens. And a lot of people, they might look up and say, oh, I recognize that guy, but I don't know where. I don't want to approach him. I didn't blink. This guy was like mid-putting omelet in his mouth, and I blurted out from 4 meters away, I know you. I probably sound like a stalker. I'm lucky he was not like some hot woman, right? Some hot woman sitting 4 meters away eating her omelet at a breakfast buffet, and some guy, me, randomly blurts across the room, I know you. She's probably calling the cops immediately, right? These kinds of stories are important, though, because these stories are opportunistic. You're open to whatever happens. So if you wake up each day and you say, I must make money day trading the S&P Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What the hell is that? You can't force it. It just has to happen. You have to be there for the opportunity. You can't force the opportunity. It's a very different way of thinking. I'm not trying to say one is right or wrong or one is better than the other. Oh, actually, you know what? I am saying that. I'm absolutely saying that because we all know that's the truth. We all know being opportunistic is it. That's the path. Nobody wants to sit still every day doing the same damn thing. But we get saddled with routine. We turn off to the new opportunity. Alison Gopnik and her Bayesian babies, again, check that interview out if you've not yet heard it. We turn that off. We stop experimenting. And once you stop experimenting, it's just a race to the bottom. Another interesting guest I've had on this show is Robin Hanson, talking about his book, The Age of M, Emulation, and how the first AI will probably be a scan of our mind put onto a hard drive where we will live forever in virtual reality. We won't know that we're not in reality. And yes, for those of you out there that are aware, we could already be in that situation, right? We could already be on a hard drive in virtual reality. But that's for another debate. My point in bringing up Robin is quite simple. We don't yet live forever. And if we don't live forever, just not yet, then do something big. No risk it, no biscuit. No risk, no return. No risk, no reward. No risk, no reward. That is experimentation. That is Alison Gopnik's Bayesian babies. That is going down the path to meet a Peter Borish or this fund manager that I reconnected with in Asia just the other day. Those kinds of experiences, they cause us to smile. We're happy. We're engaged. Look, don't get me wrong. I want to make as much money as possible, but I also want to do it in the right way. I want to do it in a way that I don't kill myself fast. I don't want to have to be out at 2:00 every morning, drinking with the corporate workers, stuck in a smoke-filled room, trying to make a deal. That's shit. I mean, that's serious shit. Nobody wants that. So building off where I started with Peter Borish and going through my story of reconnecting with my random hedge fund friend, speaking about Alison Gopnik in Bayesian Babies, let me share an email that I think ties all of these issues together, something about yoga. And for those of you that don't know, as a guy who's in the middle of his life who can still do the splits, yes, I can. I'm sure some of you are thinking right now that if I try to do that, I will break. I can tell you, honestly, you will break unless you practice every damn day. A little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And I really think where I've gone today ties together with this email. I received it just the other day. I won't use Chris's last name. He did not give me permission, but I will read his email. He says, I've taken your advice again, and I've not regretted it. I started a regular yoga practice a few months ago, and I'm seeing and feeling the benefits. I've wanted to do this for some time, but finally got going. The instructor of the class I'm taking likes to do a reading each class. This particular reading stuck with me and made me immediately related to trend following and some things you've said before on your podcast. I feel like you can replace yoga with trend following. Now, Chris quotes from something called Meditations on Intention and Reading by Rolf Gates, day 129. Now, I've not seen that, so I'm not sure exactly the writing that he is referring to, but let me read the excerpt that he sent me. Now, this is quoting from Rolf Gates. It seems a simple enough thing to say, but really it's the hardest part of coming to yoga. If we can admit that we do not know something, then we can learn anything. If we cannot admit that we do not know, we will remain blind to what we could learn. I think we're afraid to say, I don't know, because we think in terms of black and white. Either I say I know and I retain the power of choice, or I say I do not know and I give my power away. In this scenario, retaining choice seems preferable, even if it is at the expense of remaining stuck in a life that does not work. What yoga offers is another option, one in which learning does not degrade the learner, nor does it take away her power of choice. In yoga, learning happens by degrees, and each degree is another turning point in the student's life, another moment of choice, end quote. That beautifully sums up where I have tried to go today. Each experience builds on the prior. Bayesian babies. Bayesian in terms of the trend. I mean, you don't know where the trend is going to go, so you just keep following it. But I love that last line. Learning happens by degrees, and each degree is another turning point in the student's life or another moment of choice. Learning happens in degrees. Think of a trend line, a trend moving up or down. Each movement, a degree. We don't know what's going to happen. We just follow along. Each one of the experiences I've related today, these personal experiences, these were degrees. They built upon each other. I can really trace to my early 20s, not a job or a career that has similar months and years. I can trace events, times, things that happened, and how they built off each other. One event happens when you're age 21. Then another event happens coming out of grad school. Now I'm talking about myself. Then you meet this person. This person motivates you to meet that person. And then that person. And then you learn a piece of information that requires you to ask the federal government for documents. Those documents then give you something else, another name. You follow that name. You don't know where any of this is going. It's kind of like investigative journalism. Think about that great film that came out recently. Was it called Spotlight? The film out of Boston about the church. Just follow. Follow the information. Follow the insights. Build upon each iteration. That is so damn different than everything they teach you in school. What they teach you in school is you will need these 8 classes per year, then 8 more classes in the next year. And they teach this damn myth that everything's going to be uniform and it's going to unfold in a predictable pattern. And you will know how your life will be. Whereas in just my simple little explanation today, which is really about life and trend following trading, you can see it doesn't work that way. You got to take the first step. You have to learn something in life. You have to see what that learning gives you, then adjust to the next step, to the next piece of information. You're doing the same damn thing if you're trading as a trend following trader. It's all tied together. It's all in the same headspace. And you know the best part about this mindset, the absolute best part? It's exciting. It's fun. I think you stay younger this way. So instead of the grim resolve of worrying about retirement and all that other kind of stuff, like somehow or another you're going to lead your life behind a damn desk, then at age 60 or 70, you're going to retire away to the islands and drink pina coladas and life's going to be grand. It's not going to be grand. You're going to be bored out of your fucking mind. If you don't lead an interesting life, if you don't meet interesting people along the way, you're just killing time, man. And guess what? Back to Robin Hanson. They've not figured out a way to get your brain scanned onto a hard drive yet, so you're not going to live forever yet. Maybe we'll get lucky in the next couple decades, but we're not there yet. So if you can't live forever and you got to make something happen, whether it's you or your kid or your friend, think Bayesian, think iterations, think building on each degree, and be opportunistic. You can't predict a damn thing. The patterns aren't going to work. That's my best damn bit of advice I can offer today. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.